Smackdown from October the 3rd, 2025. Again, a decent episode of Smackdown this week. They're leaning on NXT to make the show watchable. So, they're not using any of the mid-carders actually on Smackdown. Well, they're using some of them. But they're mixing in NXT talent to give the show some flavor and making it feel fresh. So, that's a good thing. I ain't going to complain about that. Meanwhile, they need a long, overarching story, and the world champion is still feuding with the world champion, and that's just dumb. All right, it's just dumb. We start the show with Cody and Randy in the ring, and confronted by Paul Heyman and the Bronze. And Heyman wants to talk to Randy Orton. He don't want to talk to Cody Rhodes. He says that if Cody loses tonight, Randy Orton will begin to doubt him. Thinking, like, that's the world champion? I could do better than that. But if Randy himself is pinned, then he's going to question where Cody Rhodes was if he loses. And then he says, either way, the Bronze will win this match, and this team will not last. And that's it. We could have done this in a Saturday night main event style promo. What at the beginning of the show. We didn't need these guys to stand in the ring just to say this. Really didn't. It wasn't that interesting, and the other guys didn't say nothing at all. The main event of the evening was Brian Breaker and Bronson Reed defeating Randy Orton and Cody Rhodes. I'm enjoying the Brian Breaker and Bronson Reed tag team, even though I don't really want Brian Breaker in a tag team. But, okay. If as long as it keeps him at near the top of the card, and he's main eventing SmackDowns and Raws, all right, and he's not losing, so that's good. They set up Paul Heyman's statement perfectly. Brian Breaker runs off the apron, leaps and tackles Cody through the barricade. While Cody is down, the Heyman makes a distraction. And Seth Rollins gives Randy Orton the stomp, followed by the tsunami by Bronson Reed, and Randy Orton takes the pin. After the match, the Bronze are celebrating with Seth Rollins, and Cody Rhodes is in the ring, and he's looking to see if Randy Orton is okay. And Seth Rollins is shaking, like, and Heyman is telling him, look, don't do it. You don't need to do that. You don't do it. But he does it anyway. He runs back, trying to give the stomp to Cody Rhodes, only to miss and get hit with a crossroads. And he flailed his arms all over the place and slid out of the ring. So he looked like a goof. And looked like his best laid plan went awry because Super Cody was able to stop him, even though Cody Rhodes, he was in position for so long. I guess you could say he was baiting Seth Rollins. But Rollins looked like a goof. But at least the Bronze won. And now we furthered the story with Orton and Cody, which has taken literally 2 years to tell. Okay. Look, it was a perfectly serviceable, fine main event. I didn't hate it. So I guess there's not much negative there. I know that some people really, really hate Cody. I don't. I actually kind of liked him. I think he's kind of boring, but that's due to the booking. I think the booking of Cody Rhodes has not been exciting. I think the booking of Cody Rhodes' character has been pretty one-dimensional. But once again, I'm going to argue that what they're doing is working. Now, this building wasn't as sold out as all the previous buildings. So maybe it is starting to wear on people, but I'm thinking it's mostly ticket prices being extraordinarily high. But they're setting up the Randy Orton heel turn here, which they probably should have done again last year or something like that, instead of lumbering around forever with this subject. I don't know. But I'm really not looking forward to Cody versus Seth Rollins at Crown Jewel. Look, they have good matches against each other. I don't think they have a bad match against each other. It's just I would rather see other people at this point. And sometimes that's just the case. Sometimes it's not that I have a problem with the people in the match. Sometimes I just would rather see something else, And if something else is available, why not do that? Like, if you don't have to do Cody Rhodes versus Seth Rollins, and it's not title for title, and it's, for a crown jewel championship, like, why not do something else? I know maybe I don't respect Triple H's ideas too much, but I'm absolutely on the tip. Like, we could literally be building up somebody else to be a number one contender here for the title, but we gotta drag ass because the champions have to wrestle each other for no good reason. I know I complained about this last week. I'm complaining about it next week too. Who cares? What I did like, and kind of saw it coming, Melo and Miz, they've officially broken up. Melo said this is done. It's over. And this is his response to the Miz wondering why he didn't save him last week. He's like, you should have kicked out. So that was pretty good. So Sami Zayn is about to have a United States Championship Open Challenge. And here comes Carmelo Hayes saying this time there's nobody holding him back, nobody blinding his vision. And Miz attacked him from behind, gives him the skull crusher finale right there in the aisleway. And saw that coming. I just knew that was going to happen. As soon as he came out with a microphone, I was like, yeah, they're going to attack him in the aisleway. It's a perfect setup. Now, the question is the Miz the babyface in this situation? You have to understand, like, when sometimes as I watch live people tweet the show and yada, yada, yada. As I'm watching it, I'm getting feedback from everybody who's tweeting at the show. And there are some people who are like, look, this is great because Carmelo Hayes, he's dumping this past his prime guy, yada, yada, yada. And I'm thinking, yeah, but the people care about Miz. Miz has been around forever, and people care about what Miz is doing. That's why this could work and has been working. The question now is, Miz as a babyface, I'm not sure that's going to work. Miz is always at his weakest when he's the babyface. Now, him attacking Carmelo Hayes from behind is something that a babyface would do. The question is, you got to give him something else, I think. I think you got to drill in people's minds that Miz is the babyface, especially if you want Carmelo to be the heel. The problem is, you got to give people a reason to like or dislike Carmelo. Carmelo Hayes being sort of selfish and not wanting to team with the Miz I don't think that's enough. I don't think it's going to get him where he needs to go. And matches with Miz certainly isn't going to get there. So there needs to be a next level, Maybe a promo segment where he really, really drives home how much he doesn't like the Miz, how much he doesn't respect the Miz, and that kind of thing. Maybe that needs to happen. Not a backstage promo, but an in-ring promo where the Miz can do what he does against guys like Bryan Danielson or John Cena, or what he did like Enzo or whatever, where he just tears into somebody. And then Carmelo Hayes can respond about how much he doesn't respect the Miz, how the crowd doesn't respect the Miz, nobody online respects the Miz, nobody likes the Miz, and yada, yada, yada. That might be the only way to get people behind Carmelo. Like, I'm talking about as a heel that people don't like, or as a babyface that people do like. I'm not sure Miz is good enough at this subtle storytelling that Triple H wants to do. I think they need to be a little bit more overt. And again, set it up where clear babyface, clear heel. Right now it's kind of muddled, where the Miz has been betrayed, but the Miz is also kind of a jackass because we've seen that the Miz have helped Carmelo Hayes win matches. So we're not necessarily just going to side with Miz just because Carmelo's a dick, And there needs to be something more with some more punch behind it. So Sami Zayn is in the ring waiting for his opponent, and here comes Aleister Black. And I said, okay, maybe Aleister Black won't even get to the ring before he's attacked by Damian Priest. Because I knew that was coming. I mean, everybody with eyeballs knew that was coming. But instead, they worked a fairly long match where they both got some good stuff in. And Aleister Black looks like he was setting up for the Black Mass. When Damian Priest showed up out of nowhere, he just lumbered around And because he was lumbering around, Aleister Black stopped paying attention. And we get the Haluva kick, Blue Thunder Bomb, Sami Zayn wins. So, Aleister Black, they did a decent job of devaluing him already. I think he was pinned by R-Truth several weeks ago. So, it's not like this was a huge loss for Aleister Black. He was in a competitive match with Sami Zayn. It was a good match. One of the better matches since Damian Priest came back. And Damian Priest cost Aleister Black the title. Afterwards, Damian Priest grabbed Aleister Black and gave him a razor's edge through the announce desk, which was brutal. Looked pretty good. And Black he was dead from the Blue Thunder Bomb, so he really didn't sell getting put through the table. Damian Priest is backstage. He challenged Aleister Black to a last man standing match next week, so not at the pay-per-view, because we can't have middle card matches at the pay-per-view. We have to put them on TV now. But he also had another run-in where Kit Wilson called him toxic, except for Kit Wilson this time was in a wheelchair. And Damian Priest wheeled him very fast and then just kind of let him go. Which is, not as funny as putting him through a wall or scaring him, but not too bad. If I asked you, what is Aleister Black and Damian Priest feuding over? Why are they feuding? That would be a question that you would probably have to go back in your Rolodex of memory and try to remember what they're feuding over. Because they have not shown you any highlights of them doing anything in a long time. And as they announced this last man standing match, for starters, I was like, okay, last man standing, this is the end of the feud. How many matches have they had? I think they've had one. But they've been having run-ins for several weeks. That being said, what are they feuding over? They were feuding because Damian Priest got in Aleister Black's business as Aleister Black wanted to continue fighting R-Truth. That's what this feud is over. And now it has grown into Aleister Black says, hey, if you continue to fight, this thing will escalate. This is about the escalation of violence now, where Aleister Black took things to the next level, kicking him in the face. Now Damian Priest is taking it to the next level by putting him through tables. All right. But I would like for them to be able to, again, address what is to be gained and what is to be lost in this feud. Otherwise, it's just mid-card hell. All right? That's what it is. It's mid-card hell. If you can't tell me why these guys are feuding, and if either one of them are going to move forward, I'm talking more towards a world title or more towards any title afterwards. I thought maybe, for an off chance, I thought maybe Aleister Black would win the title and continue his feud with Aleister Black as the United States champion. I thought maybe that would be the case. But no, that didn't happen. Now, there was a lot of people who are sitting back there saying to themselves, when it comes to this United States Championship Open Challenge, who should end it? They're having fun with the matches, but there's been 5 or 6 of them at this point. But they're saying like, okay, but Femi needs to show up and squash Sami Zayn. Well, I can tell you already that's not happening. They're not having Sami Zayn go as the United States champion all this time just to get squashed. It's not going to happen. He may lose it, but he's not going to get squashed. Now, as it's set up right now, from the way I'm looking at things, Carmelo Hayes should win the title as the next person, not the next person, but as the person who, out of winning the Open Challenge, he should win the title in the Open Challenge. As that story is the most mixed in with the Open Challenge story. Now, they could obviously group Miz and Melo and sweep them away, or they could just mix Melo and Miz into this United States Championship Open Challenge by maybe having Miz challenge Sami Zayn, and then Carmelo Hayes cost the Miz the match. And then it's a triple threat match, which I don't necessarily like, but that'll get us in the desired direction. But I don't think they're going to do that either. I'm thinking they're going to take these two feuds, which they mixed into this Open Challenge, and take them in different directions, and there's going to be somebody else, a third party, that's going to win United States title. And it could very well be Obafemi, but I'm actually concerned if it is. When you look at how they have booked the women's United States Championship, if you look at how they booked the tag team titles, Obafemi is probably better off as not winning a championship at all and just coming in onto the brand as a strong heel. But I really not a big fan of the idea of even bringing Obafemi to SmackDown. You know, it's probably the best option for him rather than hanging out in NXT forever. But everybody who's trying to fantasy book Obafemi as this big killer, look, you have to realize they don't book like that. Triple H has not booked anybody to be a killer. Everybody's been doing 50-50 booking. Everybody. The only person who's a killer is Brock. That's why Brock is the only one who stands out. You know, this is not going to work. You can have your mind set on Obafemi coming in there squashing all these midgets and all this stuff. No, they're not doing it. The midgets are 50-50 with the big guys. The mid-carders are 50-50 with the main eventers. That's how they book things now. And it's unfortunate, but that's what it is. All right, next. Sol Ruca and Zarya, they pop up. They want to prove themselves in the tag team division because they want to wrestle Charlotte and Alexa Bliss. They instead try to get recruited by Chelsea Green, they tell Chelsea Green to buzz off, and we end up with a match out of these two versus Alba Fire and Chelsea Green. Sol Ruca and Zarya versus Alba Fire and Chelsea Green. There was not much to this match. This was basically a Sol Ruca showcase match. And to be quite honest, Zarya doesn't really have to do that much. She hasn't done much in a long time, to be fair. She's basically Sol Ruca's surfboard. I saw a joke online that says, okay, Sol Ruca has a surfer gimmick. Where's the surfboard? You don't forget, the surfboard has a heartbeat. It's called Zarya. She doesn't do anything. All right. So, Sol Ruca does all the work. You know, all the phenomenal offense and everything is Sol Ruca. That's it. Zarya is just kind of there as her pseudo lesbian friend. And that's how the team has been working for months. I've been saying I need to get out of this team because I need to see more out of Zarya. They showed a little bit here. They let her do some power moves and stuff, but for the most part, Zarya has just been riding Sol Ruca's coattails as Sol Ruca has been double champion and featured on pay-per-views and everything. She has this thriving solo career. She doesn't need Zarya, but Zarya just kind of goes along for the ride. And everybody's just kind of like, well, Zarya's kind of cool. Well, yeah, kind of. But that's like, you know, if Luna Vachon was like Sunny's friend. It's like, that's not fair. It's not fair to call like Sol Ruca Sunny, but maybe Sable's friend. No, that's not even fair either. Let's say, who is she more like? Lita's friend. Let's say that, you know, Luna Vachon was Lita's friend, and that's really all she did was follow Lita around all day. Then you would be like, oh, that's such a great team, yada, yada, yada. It's like, yeah, it's a great contrast in how you look at the two characters. But overall, Zarya doesn't do much of anything. She's not the promo of the two. She's the base, meaning that if they wanted to do some stuff where, like, you know, Sol Ruca wanted to flip off her back or something like that, she could do that. But other than that, Zarya doesn't really serve that much of a purpose. She doesn't even do the big comeback like the big guy in the tag team should. She barely even does that. And of course, Sol Ruca gets all the pins. I don't even remember what Zarya's finisher is. That's how long this thing has been going on where Sol Ruca has been getting all the wins. I don't even know what Zarya's finisher is. And Sol Ruca, of course, is a whole lot of athleticism and a great finisher. So, but of course they won this match. Afterwards, Alexa Bliss and Charlotte say they were impressed by the two of them and they better be ready when the time comes for them to wrestle. And then Charlotte talked Alexa Bliss into doing a woo, which was pathetic, quite pathetic. Tiffany Stratton and Stephanie Vaquera signed their contract. Tiffany left the ring. Who cares about what you were talking about? It's babyface versus babyface. None of that matters. Julia then attacks Tiffany Stratton in the aisleway. And Kiana James made a proposition to Stephanie Vaquera, or Vaquera, as Booker T called. Anyway, so Kiana James makes this proposition to Stephanie and said that she's a star, but she's not a superstar, and Kiana James can make her a superstar. She says that Julia is the best women's champion on SmackDown and guarantees that if Stephanie Vaquer signs up with her, she will win the crown jewel match. Stephanie Vaquer, of course, blows them off. She's not interested. Tiffany Stratton returns, and the four of them mix it up. Julia almost gets powerbombed or whatever by Stephanie Vaquer, and she ends up fleeing, setting up a tag team match for next week where it's going to be Kiana James and Julia versus Stephanie Vaquer and Tiffany Stratton. Why are the people who are wrestling each other going to be in a tag team? Why? The day before the big match, why are they going to be in a tag team? Why should anybody care about this contest between these two women? You know, I don't know. I don't get it. This babyface versus babyface stuff. It's not for me. It's stupid. Babyface versus babyface should only be utilized when the babyface has a goal to achieve that he can only get by beating another babyface. Think Boyhood Dream. Shawn Michaels can only become the WWF champion by beating Bret the Hitman Hart, who just happens to be the champion, for the title at WrestleMania. It's the only way for it to happen. Okay? That is the only time when a babyface versus babyface match should occur. Booking babyface versus babyface for no good reason is stupid. All right? Making the fans choose between them or actively turning the audience against one of them. Trying to keep the fans neutral. All of that is dumb. It's all dumb. And Tiffany Stratton has been in such a bad place. She's been champion since like March or something. And they've done nothing really to elevate her. Now she's been winning all of this time, but she's been getting dragged all around by Nia Jax. And, you know, she had a couple of matches and probably gave Jade Cargill the best matches she could have had. And she had a really good match with Trish Stratus too. I'm not going to, deny that one. That one was pretty solid. And this one was going to be pretty good too because Stephanie is very good. But again, Tiffany Stratton versus Trish Stratus was face versus face. And now this is face versus face. Why? Where are the heels? Why are there no heels? Why is Tiffany Stratton not the heel? I don't know, man. It's stupid. It doesn't do Tiffany. I mean, it doesn't do Stephanie any good either because she just won the title. And now she's thrust into this situation and she hasn't built up any sort of legacy or legitimacy with this championship where people kind of want to see if she's beatable. You know, like we haven't seen her on like this incredible run that we want to see if Tiffany can break it. It makes Stephanie look like shit if Stephanie loses because she just won the belt. So she doesn't look good if she loses immediately. And Tiffany looks like an idiot. She's been champion for 6 months now and she can't beat Stephanie Vaquer. It just looks ridiculous. I don't mind Kiana James and Julia, however. I think that's actually pretty good. I like their storyline together. Julia can't really talk. That's a problem. Her English is not that great. So putting Kiana James with her is good. Having Kiana James have her own agenda is also very good. Kiana James taking credit for Julia's greatness sets up stuff for the future. And I like this. This could possibly end up with Julia versus Tiffany Stratton. I like that too. Champion versus champion, but the better option is heel versus babyface, for God's sake. And the idea that Julia could possibly win both titles and be a double champion, which they probably won't happen because for some reason Julia has no opponents. There's no opponents anywhere to be found on SmackDown for Julia. Nowhere. Anyway, Nick Aldis tells Javon Evans to stay in touch after his United States Championship Open Challenge last week, which got 4.5 stars by Dave Meltzer or something like that. It was beloved even by Jim Cornette, who gave it a ton of credit. I was more surprised by Jim Cornette falling in love with Javon Evans than I was that Meltzer and Alvarez and those guys like him. He's a perfect wrestler for the AEW fan base. He's huge athleticism and As long as he can do that, that's all they care about. They don't really care about character, promos, look, yada. None of that stuff matters. If you could do all the athletic shit, then, or you could dump somebody on their head, then you're great in their book. Anyway, Phoenix wants to have a match with Javon Evans to see, if he can keep up with them. And then Los Garza show up, call them both flying lizards. And Javon Evans, wants to fight them. And so Nick all disagrees. So we have the best match on the show that follows. Phoenix and Javon Evans versus Berto and Angel Los Garza. This match was just fun. Turn your brain off. Don't overthink it. Simple baby faces and heels, except for the fact that the heels are doing a lot of the high flying stuff too, which, they're cruiserweight heels. So of course they're going to do this shit. Action packed contest. Fun. Great match. The Garzas did some kind of crazy double team move where actually Angel was carrying both of them. Like one is like a fall away slam, the other one like a power bomb, and then they turned around and Berto did like a springboard kick. That was a crazy move, and I was like, I love these guys. I've been talking about how great Los Garza is for months. I'm a big fan of these guys. They should be a bigger part of the roster. If we're being honest, they should be featured a whole lot more, and they have personality, and they have charisma, especially Angel. Santos Escobar is in a weird place though. I haven't seen him on TV in forever, and he's been tweeting out odd pictures of himself. We don't know what's going on. Maybe he's injured and he's about to make a return. I don't know. Maybe he's going to get the Andrade treatment and they're going to send him home. I don't know. Him and Andrade are around the same age, for God's sake. But Los Garza are starting to find their legs by themselves. Phoenix and Javon Evans are a tremendous tag team just due to the high-flying nature of it. And it goes to show how great of a tag wrestler Phoenix is, because it doesn't really matter who you put on the other side. Phoenix does his part, It's just great. I love this match. This match was fun. And it was what you would watch at an indie show or something like that. And you can have one or two of those matches on the show. There's no real storyline development to be had. It's just, let's put some guys out there to have an incredibly fun match. And it probably should have been the opener, but I don't think anything would have topped it if it was the opener. Jacob Fatu cut a promo saying he's tired of hearing about people lying and crying. He was broke. So you don't want to hear that shit. So he did some cocaine references. So I thought that was funny. But a lot of it was him wearing Lokes and a jersey, which I'm pretty sure all the "he not black" people are going to complain about. But it was a great promo nonetheless. I wish him and Drew McIntyre would have done something on this show rather than him cut a promo on Drew McIntyre. Solo Sikoa introduced Hikuleo Talatonga, who says he loved him because he helped him win his first championship, and he wants to see more of the monster within inside of Talatonga. He then said that something is missing from his MFTs, and when he finds it, he's going to put everybody on notice. And I'm thinking, is that something missing? Tongaloa? Not Tongaloa, Tamatonga. Because he was in this group too, and now he's gone, and nobody knows where he is. People continue to disappear on SmackDown for weeks on end. Nobody knows where they go or why. Guys show up 1 week, they don't show up for 2 weeks. Mia Yim, for instance, showed up 1 week, didn't show up for 2 weeks. Nobody knows where she is. Nobody cares, right? The Street Profits, they're going to get another tag team championship match because there's no other tag teams on this show. So the Street Profits, whom I love, I adore them, but them getting another tag team championship in a row is stupid. And this time they said they're fighting for themselves, not just for the championships. And the Wyatts questioned whether they'll continue to have this faith in each other when it all comes crumbling down. It's that time. All right. The Wyatts are feuding with the Psycho Clown and Pagano and AAA. They're not about to lose the tag team championships. It's not about to happen. They're going to beat the Street Profits in Australia. The Street Profits are going to break up. And I'm not a huge fan of that idea. I think there's a lot of gas left in them. And when you look at how they have been treating guys on this roster, they're not maximizing the potential of any of the guys that they have on this show. The idea that they're going to split up the Street Profits so that Tez could possibly have a chance of being a top guy, it's like, no, they're going to break them up and probably pull in a claim to where he's going to be separated for a year or two and then just throw them back together. I can almost see that happening. It's that stupid. This isn't the old regime where one guy becomes clearly a star and then they try to make something out of him, whether it's Big Cass or Shad Gaspard or whatever, and maybe it doesn't work, maybe it does, maybe you get yourself a Bret Hart and a Shawn Michaels out of it, maybe not. This ain't that regime. These guys have not seen star power in Jacob Fatu, for God's sake. He's not even featured on the show every week. They can't even figure out what to do with Drew McIntyre on a week-to-week basis. They can't figure out what to do with Randy Orton on a week-to-week basis. So I don't have any idea at all that if they separate the Street Profits, that Tez is going to be fine. No, I don't believe it. I don't believe it at all. You're better off breaking up the Street Profits, not with them having it out with each other where Tez finally gets sick of Dawkins and beats him up, or the other way around. You're probably better off just having a draft and then having one of them get drafted to the show and another one has to stay on SmackDown. That's probably the best way to do it, like they did with the Dudley Boys. So if it doesn't work out, you could just flip it later on and put one back on that show. And if that's what you want to do, but I don't think that's going to happen. I just don't think it's going to happen, man. All right, so that's SmackDown in a nutshell. Still no top feud on the show. They're just doing a collection of matches and trying to use that very weak mid card to hold everything up. But what's really benefiting the show is the United States Championship Open Challenge matches. Because they've been of high quality and they eat up a lot of time, it's a good thing. Adding NXT, so you have Sol Ruka and Zarya and actually Javon Evans featured. That's a good thing. So that stuff is keeping it from being a terrible show. But other than that, it's incredibly mid. The world champions are tied up in feuds with other world champions. Not even a feud when it comes to Tiffany Stratton. It's not a feud. The tag team titles have been a one-horse town for who knows how long. Who the hell knows where DIY is? Nobody knows where the Motor City Machine Guns went. Where did Fraxium go? I mean, nobody knows. It's just ridiculous stuff. They were using AAA to make the show fresh about a month or two ago, right before Worlds Collide. So now they're using NXT to keep SmackDown fresh while they build up for the Showdown show. Okay, that's fair enough. But I would like for SmackDown to be, yes, a showcase for your up-and-coming stars and people that you want other folks to get into. But there also should be solid mid-carders on their own that people want to see. And there is. You just have to feature them, right? You just have to do stuff. Have to do angles. And you have to have people feud with each other. And you have to give people reasons to feud. But what am I talking about? I don't know much. Let me know what you guys thought of SmackDown, however. Like, share, subscribe. I'll talk to you guys later. Peace out.